All right, going into the second game of the day, it's gonna be Flash versus Snow on Oh, I actually missed what it's on Crossing Field. So very large map, very macro heavy map. I think this is actually a pretty good candidate for Snow's Reaver Carrier style. Now it's kind of funny that we mentioned Reaver Carrier. This is something that Snow used a lot in the GTB, especially in the grand finals. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys if you haven't seen it, but it was really impressive to see really cool stuff from him, basically going into going into Reavers to take his third base and keep his opponent pinned back, and then he would go into carriers really early before he even got a Citadel or Templar tech up. So insanely fast carriers off of three bases, and then just trying to bide his time for long enough to actually hold off the Terran army before he got the maximum number of carriers. And then the follow-up transition was really, really cool. Not going to spoil it for you guys if you haven't seen the finals. It's amazing. So we'll see if he goes for that particular style on this map. I think Crossing Field is a very good style for that map. It's got that circular symmetry in it, so it's hard to actually just push directly across the map. There's always a counterattack route or a way to just slow down your opponent for a long time. And there's also a lot of abusable space for carriers on this map. So overall, a really cool map. I hope that we get to see that carrier Reaver style and see it come out, because it's pretty neat. A fairly early scout coming out from Snow. Wonder if he's going to go for the gas steal. It looks like indeed he is going to be going for that gas steal, but he's going to wait for his opponent to actually to go for it, because he doesn't want to go for it too early if his opponent is just going to go gasless. I mean, of course, when you do the gas steal, you do force your opponent into a gasless anyway, but the nice thing is also that you deny them if they specifically wanted to go for some sort of gas first strategy. But looks like the gas steal is going to be coming in right there, so we're going to be seeing gasless flex expand coming out from Flash. Flash doesn't seem too worried. He kind of expected this, and with how large this map is, it makes sense to just go for the gasless fast expand anyway. And you see he immediately puts down that supply depot next to the barracks, because usually when you go for a gas steal, you follow up with the zealot, because you know your opponent can't get out a fast vulture. They can't get out a fast tank if they wanted, so you can just go ahead and harass with that zealot and cause some real damage to the Terran player as they're trying to go for the gasless fast expand. But smart placement, building placement, allows the Marine to sit in between the barracks and the supply depot. He'll be just fine once this eventually comes in here. So both players just expanding. Not surprised to see that. And the first zealot is slowly coming across the map. This is one of those things where it takes so long for units to come across the map that it just doesn't even matter. And this first zealot is going to be coming into the Terran base right now. With good micro, Flash can hold this pretty easily, but it's gonna require him to be paying attention. And he already takes 2 hits on that one Marine, but he does save it, so that's very nicely done. Both players just taking their expansions. Flash going for the backdoor expansion, which is smart. But Snow is he's going to be going a little bit more aggressively, going for the natural expansion, saving his backdoor expansion for a little bit later. And is this the same zealot, or is this the second zealot? I think this is 2 zealots, so 2 zealots going to be coming down here now and trying to harass, and this is going to put significant pressure on his opponent, maybe even canceling this gas right now. That's annoying. That means that Flash is going to get an even slower third gas. We may see him try to adapt by just taking a really early 4th base instead. Meanwhile, these zealots need to be careful. They need to not take too much hull damage, or else they're going to be in quite a weak spot to follow up later on in the game. But with 3 zealots, it's going to be able to push this small group of Marines way back, and this has been such a bizarre opening. I think Flash actually just canceled the CC that he was making so he could make some more Marines, and this is tons and tons of pressure. Now you know why Protoss was considered the strongest race when this game first came into existence, but eventually the Marine's going to be able to push this back, and more Zealots actually still coming across the map for Snow. Snow is not going to give up on this pressure. He's going to continue to do lots of damage and maybe even take a fast third behind this while he knows his opponent's tech is still delayed. by having to make all these Marines. So the next set of Zealots is going to be coming up here and trying to deal with this, but Flash is just going to micro like a god and stop his opponent from actually doing anything. That was so sick overall, but two Marines do go down. He's going to have to micro really well on this last 2 Marines. He does do it very well, but another Zealot coming up the ramp. This is the point, honestly, where as the Terran player, you're just like, I hate my life. Just leave me alone. Leave me alone. But eventually, Snow is going to finally let up on the pressure. With the 2 SCVs, these Marines are going to be able to push it back. And we do see that third Nexus come down before any tech. Snow is going to be playing for the macro game at this point. We do see an early armory going down for Flash, so this could mean one of 2 things. It could mean either a very interesting timing attack, or it means we're going to be seeing a particular +1 or a +2 attack timing attack. Sorry, it's going to be +2 weapons timing attack, which usually happens right about the time that Protoss is teching to their Stargate units, either Arbiters or Carriers. So there are different ways to deal with that. If we see Snow go for his Carrier Reaver style, then we'll see him go for that. He'll definitely get caught in the middle of this 2-2 timing attack. But you can also actually just go for a very gateway heavy style. Something that Mini's been doing a lot as well, where instead of going ahead and teching out to that, you actually just get maxed out on gateway units really, really fast. And so you have Archons, you have Templars, and a ton of Zealots and Dragoons. So you just kind of surround your opponent in the middle of the army and kill them. But trying to do that on this map is, even though you do have the rotational symmetry, you can kind of go for counterattacks and things like that. Trying to get a good surround is difficult because the middle of the map isn't as open. So it might not be the best idea for Snow to go for that particular type of strategy. But we'll see. We'll see what he decides to end up doing. 2 Zealots finally going to be able to push down here. Sorry that there's this music playing, but I hope you enjoyed anyway. Both players are just going to be taking up at this point. Not a whole lot to talk about, honestly. I don't expect either player to be very aggressive at this point in time. Just going to sit back, macro out, do good stuff. We may see a couple drops coming in. It really depends on what Snow decides to do in the next couple minutes, if he goes for the Reaver tech, or if he's just going to stick on Observers and Gateway units for right now. And there's the first Stargate going down, so I think we are going to be going straight into those carriers. I did not see a Citadel of a Dune going down, so usually you have to build a Citadel before the 2 Stargates before it actually gets working. So there's the Fleet Beacon, so definitely going to see carriers coming in. Not surprised to see that at all coming out from Snow. And Flash sees it all. Beautiful scan. He's actually going to see everything that happens over there. And meanwhile, both players actually just having almost full and complete scouting information of each other. Snow scouting his opponent out with the Observer, and Flash getting the money scans. So overall, this is, both players know exactly what the other player is going for. It's just going to be a matter of timing and positioning. You see Flash is actually adding on a ton of extra factories right now. He's going to be gearing up for that huge +2/+2 attack once he gets enough tanks out on the field. Meanwhile, Snow actually going super greedy. It looks like he's actually going to be taking a 4th behind this as well, instead of adding on extra gateways. Despite seeing all of these factories going down, so he's pretty confident that he can hold it, and this is pretty impressive to see that he's confident enough to just hold with a few gateway units against a +2 timing attack. Let's see if it works. +2/+2 started for the Terran player now. So as soon as that finishes, we're probably going to be seeing Flash mobilize and move out. Tons and tons of gateways coming out. The gateway flood is real. And we're probably going to be going up to maybe 8+ gateways. Maybe even close to 10. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, I believe, total. So 9 gateways, lots of production, and wow, Flash going up to an insane number of factories. This is going to be, this timing attack is going to hit hard as hell. And it's going to have tons and tons of vultures and Goliaths to reinforce. It's going to be insane how strong this actually hits. But Flash is keeping a really close eye on his opponent's carrier count. He wants to make sure that he's not caught off guard by the carrier just being out a little bit sooner than expected or anything like that. Or his opponent tries some sort of like cancel into some other tech. Just keeping a very close eye on what his opponent is doing. And he sees the 4th base now. I wonder if he's actually just going to mobilize now. Just mobilize a little bit early and cut off that 4th base, because there's not really anything that Snow can actually do to defend it right now. That's his entire army, is that small group of Dragoons. And even though they can kite this back, they're not absolutely excellent at pushing it back all the way. But Snow is going to start trying to take control of this ridge and slow down his opponent as the first units are being mobilized and pushed out. But Flash isn't really going to commit to this until he has +2. He's starting up the siege right now to slowly push forward, but he's not going to be going full steam ahead until the +2 finishes. And so we'll just have to keep a very close eye on when that happens, when that starts, because that's going to be the key moment when Flash presses the go button. He just rams down his opponent's front door. Can Snow actually hold this now? He's actually going up to all 3 of those Stargates, and he's going to be adding on a Templar Archive. So amazingly passive game so far, and I'm amazed that honestly that Flash hasn't been able to find any openings in Snow's defense so far, because honestly this is such a greedy build to actually be going for as Snow right now. You go for 2 base carrier to 3 Stargates while taking a 4th, while teching up. It's insane. I guess the only downside to this particular build is you don't really have an early forge, so you don't get that +1 attacks until much later on your ground army. But considering how much of your DPS is coming through on the carriers, maybe it's not all that bad. Flash is going to be pushing out across the map right now. Is he going to go full steam ahead straight into the natural, or is he going to choose the 4th base as his target? He sees no base, no inner base, and nothing set up over there, so he's going to go ahead and start pushing forward. He doesn't really want to stay in this gully for too long, because this is prime target for getting wrecked by carriers. But as soon as he can get over this next ridge, he's going to be in between his opponent's natural and 4th base, so it's going to be very easy for Flash to actually pull this off. But here come the carriers. How much damage can the carriers do? So far, really good kiting back from Snow, and he's doing a good job of forcing the siege up. Forcing units to be in position, but that's so many Goliaths and still so many tanks, and even more reinforcements coming across the map. Flash has so many factories that he can just reinforce with pure Goliath and pure Vulture. It's actually crazy. And it looks like Goliaths are going to be the choice right now. He just wants more and more Goliaths to deal with these carriers. And a lot of Dragoons going down, and there's not much of a ground army left for Snow. So may have engaged a little bit too soon before he had everything in position, but he's going to go right now. He's going to try to push into here, maybe thinking the better of it after his opponent pulls back. This is, I don't know why we just lost sound. That's a little bit weird, but I'm pretty sure it's just the video, not me. So you guys should still be able to hear me. I'll continue casting over this. The siege is just continuing to go forward. A really nice storm going down on those Goliaths, and that's going to deal quite a bit of damage to all of them. But as you can see, it's not quite as effective as maybe having Reavers, even though Reavers are very difficult to micro. If you can get some good shots off on the Goliaths, they just go down very, very quickly, much faster than they would versus Storms. So Snow just trying to find a good angle, a good arc for these carriers and try to get in on top of this, but there's so many tanks in this natural, and there's just not enough gateway units. There's not enough room to maneuver that I'm not sure that Snow's going to be able to hold this. Maybe he attacked a little bit too early before he had the proper resources to get a full flank, and right now Flash is just going to be slowly stutter-stepping, buddy hopping his siege tanks into this natural and taking down a few carriers as well. Snow going for a last-ditch attempt to try to break this, but I don't think it's gonna work. There are more reinforcements coming out from Flash, but actually a lot of the tanks have gone down. Is this actually been held by Snow? Did he find a way to actually pull us back and push us back? He's lost a lot of carriers in the process, though, which worries me. Even though he's taken down a lot of siege tanks, this is one of those weird moments where the matchup kind of turns on its head, where it's not really necessary for the Terran player to keep all their tanks alive. It's more necessary for the Protoss player to keep all of their carriers alive. So trading for a lot of carriers, even though he lost a lot of tanks, is okay, because the carriers are really the critical mass. That's really the dangerous part of this particular matchup at this point in time. Both players going ahead and expanding to their fourth bases, sending some units, some workers over there to re-expand, but a very beautiful Vulture run by over here is going to be able to kill off this cannon and maybe a lot of those probes over at that base. So economy just failing for Snow right now. Even though he's been able to push this back, Flash is going to be able to rebuild and push back in his favor. The one thing that Flash really does have going for him is, the one thing that Snow really does have going for him is he still has a very high carrier count. It's not as high as he would like it to be, but it's still high enough that he can be cost efficient against the Terran army up to a certain point. And so right now he's actually going to be going in and harassing. I would like him to actually just focus down the command center and get out, but instead he's decided he's going to go for all of the supply depots, which is a smart idea too. It keeps his opponent from actually rebuilding his army, and it also does quite a bit of damage to the economy by forcing a whole bunch of money to be reinvested in the supply depots. But you can see that Flash is already, like, 4 supply depots went down and he's still sitting at 200 max supply, so he was obviously pretty prepared for that, already built a bunch of extra supply depots in case those went down. Smart play from Flash, just being on top of everything in this game. And even though these carriers are doing quite a bit of harassment, doing quite a bit of damage, it's giving Snow an opportunity to come back into the game, continue mining from that 4th base, and consider starting to take a 5th base. He'll probably want to aim for taking that 5th base down next to the Terran backdoor main, down in like the 6 o'clock position. But it really just depends on how much pressure you can get across the map right now. And Flash is moving out yet again. It looks like he's actually going to be taking another base in that low ground area. And so just continuing on in the path of reinforcement. It's very smart with the mech army to go ahead and reinforce in the path of reinforcement. So you can just continue. That base is automatically defended because that's where all your units will be cycling through. And more micro coming down from either side. You see the awesome carrier versus Goliath micro, but honestly, as long as Snow manages to keep these alive, he's going to do pretty well. And trying to trade for a couple of mech units right there, but it's not going to work. And this is one of those positions where, again, it's really scary. There's not a very good area for you to get a good surround in this area, and so he's going to have to wait for his opponent to push all the way in before he really presses the go button and goes all in on this. If he goes too early, he's going to find himself in a spot where he's pushing into tanks, and that's not what you want to do. You want to allow the tanks to come to you. More and more micro going down on both sides, and one of these, I believe one of the carriers actually just went down, or just got very, very low from lots of those Goliath hits, and the tanks are slowly getting on top of this Nexus. As soon as they get on top of the Nexus, then it's going to be crisis mode for Snow. He's going to have to go very soon, and he's continuing to try to move forward, but honestly, it looks like a lot of gateway units have been shipped off, and even though the reinforcement path is much closer for Snow, he doesn't have any more Zealots in this army. It's just pure Dragoons versus a couple of tanks, and there's the GG, Snow tapping out. Played an excellent game so far, but as I said, crossing field, difficult to actually hold in those chokes.